Fancy Nancy by Jane O'Connor. Pictures by Robin Preiss-Glasser. This is my room before I made it fancy. I love being fancy. My favorite color is fuchsia. That's a fancy way of saying purple. I like to write my name with a pen that has a plume. That's a fancy way of saying feather. And I can't wait to learn French because everything in French sounds fancy. Nobody in my family is fancy at all. They never even ask for sprinkles. There's a lot they don't understand. Lace-trimmed socks do help me play soccer better. Sandwiches definitely taste better when you stick in frilly toothpicks. A princess is supposed to keep her tiara on.
What's a fancy girl to do? I ask my doll Maribel. Her full name is Maribel Lavinia Chandelier.
Then I get an idea that is stupendous. That's a fancy word for great. Oh, I noticed that Nancy is looking at all these advertisements on the wall at the grocery store. I wonder what she's thinking about. Maybe I can teach my family how to be fancy. I make an ad and stick it on the fridge. Learn to be fancy with lessons from Nancy. Start today. Easy, fun, free. Soon there is a knock on my door. My family saw the ad. They want to get started right away. Let's see what she's teaching them. On her board it says plain, yellow, fancy, gold, plain, leather, fancy, patent leather, plain, glasses, fancy, sunglasses. The trouble is, my family doesn't own any fancy clothes. That's okay. I go find, what is that fancy word? Oh yes, some accessories. Ooh la la, my family is posh. That's a fancy word for fancy. My mom twirls in front of the mirror. Why don't we go somewhere fancy tonight? How about dinner at the King's Crown, Dad suggests. Wow, my parents are acting fancier already. Nancy looks really excited. She's jumping in the air. May I escort you lovely ladies outside? The limousine is waiting. My dad is our chauffeur. That's a fancy word for driver. Look at them coming into the restaurant. The other people in the booth look a little surprised. When we arrive at the King's Crown, everyone looks up. They probably think we're movie stars. I am so proud of my whole family. They eat with their pinkies up and call each other darling. For dessert, let's have parfaits, my mom says. That's French for ice cream sundaes. Amazing! My mother knows French. When our parfaits are ready, I curtsy and say, merci. I carry the tray like a fancy waiter. Oops, I trip, I slip. The tray does a double flip. I don't feel fancy anymore. I want to go home. Oh no, Nancy looks embarrassed. Embarrassed is how you might feel if something happens that you wish other people didn't see. She might feel embarrassed right here because she dropped the ice cream sundaes. After I get all cleaned up, I put on my dressing gown. Those are fancy words for bathrobe. I feel much better. I'm ready for a parfait. I tell my parents, thank you for being fancy tonight. I love you, my dad says. I love you, my mom says. And all I say back is, I love you, because there isn't a fancy or better way of saying that. The end. I really like this story. I especially like when Nancy fell and was embarrassed. Did you notice how her family all gathered around her to try to make her feel better? I thought that was really nice. And I love how Nancy is not ashamed or embarrassed to be who she is. She likes to dress up and she likes to be fancy, and she wanted to share that with her family, and I think that's amazing. I hope you enjoyed this book, and I hope you'll come back and read with me soon. Bye!